Hey everyone.
Hey everyone.
Hey everyone.
Please
Welcome.
use this as the intro.
Oh, totally using that.
In a world where tomorrow's blockbusters reign,
three millennials look back on our generation's classics.
Our generation's classics,
And remember.
Welcome to Millennials at the Movie House, the podcast where three friends watch our generation's beloved movies of yesterday and review them from our modern everyday perspectives. I'm Betsy.
I'm Tracy.
And I'm Serena.
And today we watched Romy and Michelle's high school reunion.
Yes, we did.
Time after time.
That is my first comment is
$240,000 to license that song, everybody.
Just that song?
Just that song.
Wait, what does that mean? Say that again.
It cost them $240,000 to license Time After Time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I just left the movie playing because I was too lazy to turn it off. And at the end, all the credits for the songs.
It was such a good soundtrack. So strong.
Oh yeah, I loved all of them.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, that's
literally my first note was music.
Yep.
Okay. But Betsy's not done yet.
It's from 1997, directed by David Merkin and written by Robin Schiff. And starring Mira Sorvino, Lisa Kudrow, Jeannie Garofalo, Alan Cumming, Julia Campbell, etc., etc. Quick synopsis, Tracy, go.
Okay. So, Romy and Michelle's high school reunion is about two girls who live in LA, roommates, best friends, like the every trope best friends. And they are reminded that it's going to be their 10-year high school reunion because they ran into a classmate that was like, hey, are you going? They're in LA and they're from, where are they from?
Tucson.
So they're like, yeah, they had basically unresolved, crushes and people or whatever in high school. So we need to go to this. So they're filling out the questionnaire of okay, what have you done over the past 10 years? Because hello, Facebook hasn't been invented yet.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah. I've got notes. And as they're filling it out, they're like, our life didn't exactly turn out the way we thought it would, or not turn out the way we thought it would, but it's not impressive enough to impress these people that we want to impress. And so they're like, how in the next 2 weeks or whatever, how are we going to make our lives better? So they try to do that. And they're like, easier solution. We can just lie about it. So they come up with this,
they invented Post-its.
They've invented Post-its. So
but they didn't really.
But they didn't really. So they come up with these lies that, they've done things and then just chaos ensues.
Good. Great. Love it. Good synopsis.
Thanks.
Yeah, that sums it up pretty well. I mean,
it does. I have some notes and some general trivia things.
Yeah. So
before we hop in, so the writer was Robin Schiff. She actually based this off of two minor characters in a play she wrote called The Ladies' Room.
Oh yeah,
and I think Lisa Kudrow reprised her role.
That was Lisa Kudrow's first professional role, was as this tiny little minor character named Michelle. She had 2 lines in the whole play.
That's so funny.
And so the reason Robin Schiff decided to develop it into a movie is because there were some executives at Touchstone who wanted the quote female version of Wayne's World.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was,
the buddy movie.
Yeah, exactly. And the other fun note I have is that it's going to be a Broadway musical soon.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Very soon.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. That's fun.
Yep.
Especially because it was first kind of a play. The origins are in a play.
Right. Yep.
My fun fact that I read and don't actually have it written down, so you're going to have to check me on this, is that they were kind of comparing it to Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, okay.
But
I do know that they nicknamed Mira Sorvino and Lisa Kudrow nicknamed themselves Smart and
Smarter, which is which is why they're comparing it to that, because both Lisa and Mira have like degrees, like they're in real life they're very
biology
smart
and like Asian studies or something like that. Yeah.
But like, kudos to, actors Hollywood for having actual degrees. So they were smart and smarter.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I love it. I love it so much. And honestly, I made a note early on that especially Lisa Kudrow, nobody can play a lovable ditz like Lisa Kudrow.
Yep.
And really, I mean, Mira Sorvino knocked it out of the park too. I mean, I can't imagine this role with this movie with any two other actors.
And that's just it. The lovable part where they're not, you don't hate them. They're
they're oh honeys.
Yeah.
Oh, honey, bless your heart.
So Serena, this was your first time seeing this movie?
Yeah, it was. And honestly, it couldn't have come at a better time because I am living with my best friend right now. And we watched it together.
I was just going to ask, did you watch it with Jenny?
We did.
I love it.
And Jenny has seen it 10 trillion times with her sister, who's like a couple years older. But so her sister and her watched it. She's like, I could recite this movie from beginning to end. Like, I've seen it so many times. It's like how I was with Wedding Singer. Like, I've seen it a trillion times. So, but she still loves the movie. It's just so crazy to me that this is yet another movie that got picked on the wheel that I haven't seen, that I should have seen. I think I like missed a huge block of TV time.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of it is like, I remember watching bits and pieces of this on TV. I don't remember it being in obviously I was too young for it to be in theaters. But like my first note was, I think I've only watched this movie all the way through beginning to end, maybe once or twice.
Same.
Because I'm always just catching bits and pieces of it.
Well, I feel like I've heard about it. People have talked about it. And for whatever reason, it's like one of those things that's like in the back of my head, like, yeah, I definitely want to watch that movie eventually. For whatever reason, I hadn't yet. And I could see why it could potentially be like a 90s cult classic.
Yep.
Yes.
And especially like for everyone who's gone through all of the high school tropes, right? And it's funny. It's a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's listed as a comedy. For some reason, I thought it was, I don't know why I was thinking it was going to be a rom-com, but
no. Well, and so that goes back to what Trey, you were saying is it's a buddy comedy, but it's a girls buddy comedy. And that is so rare, even still now. And so I think that's maybe why it was kind of moderate at the box office. It wasn't like a huge success, but why it kind of stayed around and really kind of like worked its way into everyone's, brains, just because you don't have a lot of those types of movies. And the whole point was about the female friendship. The whole point was about a female friendship. You just don't have that a lot.
I liked it. And that actually, it'd be interesting to do a little search and see, if you Google, female buddy comedy films and see what comes up. Because if you think
of like female duos in movies, I mean, my first thought is Thelma and Louise. That is not a comedy.
I know. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler.
Yes. Literally any Tina Fey. Amy Poehler. Yeah.
Okay. True. I love both of those.
Or Bridesmaids.
That's a good one. Yep.
Bridesmaids is like the response to Hangover. I think
that's interesting because I was reading a Vanity Fair article that was an interview with Robin Schiff. And she made a comment about how comedy nowadays is just gross. It's not even raunchy. It's just gross.
Yes.
Yeah. And this preceded that. And she was like, I miss that about that type of comedy.
Yep.
And which is why another reason why I think I like Romy and Michelle so much is because none of it was
stupid or like potty. Yeah. 100% agree, because a lot of people like Bridesmaids. I don't like Bridesmaids at all, because
which one was that?
That was the one where
it's Kristen Wiig is the lead. And
Maya Rudolph, I think, is getting married.
Rudolph is getting married, and Kristen Wiig kind of has like a frenemy situation with Rose Byrne.
Right. I did see that, but recently.
Yeah, and I think the problem with that movie is they were trying too hard to be the female buddy comedy.
Mhm.
So all they did was write a male buddy comedy and put females in it.
Except that they compare it. My comparison is the Hangover. So you have the Hangover is the guy version and Bridesmaids is the female version.
Yeah.
Except that in Bridesmaids, it's still pitting women against women. In
Yep.
Hangover, it's
Yeah.
like all the guys have to band together to save
Yeah.
the groom, blah, blah, blah. It was, I never registered it until I just
Interesting.
explained it that way,
Yeah.
which I'm like, oh, that's part of the
Yep.
reason why I don't like that movie.
Yep.
Point being, Serena, you enjoyed it. Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. I feel like there were some scenes that they were portrayed as just dummies, like ditzy, and well, there was a lot of ditzy scenes, but I'm just like, they're smart, but they know stuff too.
Right.
So I don't
Yep.
know. Sometimes I have
they never prove that they're not capable of things.
Right.
yeah.
They're just a little bit in their own La La Land brains. It's fine.
I was watching a YouTube review, not a review, of Lisa Kudrow and Mira Sorvino reviewing, or 20 years later, because the 20-year anniversary had come, and they did a review, not a review, but like they were like looking back, and they're like, yeah, we're like two ditzy blondes, like in our own world, la la la. And I'm like surprised that they even look at it that way, because like that's not the first thing I took from it, but
No, I think like
you
you
know.
were saying, like they were endearing idiots. They were the, but the message was, and that's okay.
yeah.
Sometimes it's better that way.
Well, that's just it. So like Michelle had, I feel like she was the ditzier and dumber of the two or whatever.
Yeah.
And she was like, my life is better because of it, basically. Cause like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what was everyone's favorite part?
So oh yeah. Well, I was gonna say that same thing that you had mentioned earlier, which was and I say this with any movie that has a good soundtrack, the music.
Yeah.
The music was awesome.
I
and
will
I also
every-
like their outfits.
Oh, of course. Their fashion
Well,
is so
yeah,
mid-90s
Yeah.
California.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It almost had a little bit of a Clueless vibe to it. Did you guys get that?
Yes.
I forget what year
Yes.
Clueless came out, but I got a Clueless vibe.
Definitely. There was one point where it was their prom scene, so it was like a flashback.
Oh my God.
It was a flashback to the 80s.
Right. I was going to say, because it was a flat
But
80s.
she specifically says your hair looks so good with blonde hair and brown roots.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
oh my God, that style is so in right now.
Yeah.
So in right now.
Like
I'm
she
like,
said it as a compliment, but really
cracking
as like that's not
Right.
Doesn't look
That's
good,
not
but-
actually
but
cool, but it is actually
right
cool now.
Yeah.
I thought that was
I'm like, that's what I'm
hilarious.
rocking.
But yeah, so time after time, I will always, always, always think of this movie when I hear that song, no
That's so
matter
funny.
what.
That interpretive dance scene, huh?
Oh, beautiful. Amazing. I love
I was
it.
like, where did that? They obviously rehearsed it.
Right.
I mean, what 90s movie isn't a 90s movie without an interpretive dance scene?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about that David Bowie song in The Knight's Tale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always a dance scene.
Yeah.
Huh. It's very 90s.
Yep.
But this was, I want to say this was the first time that I noticed the soundtrack in general, just all the songs that they had playing throughout the movie. I was
Yeah.
very impressed with it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's how I felt about the Wedding Singer soundtrack,
Yeah.
which is second to none.
Right. But the Wedding Singer, the purpose was the music.
Right.
Yeah, that's
This
true.
This was
decided
just a
to
soundtrack,
rock
yeah.
for whatever reason. All right. So that's fair. That's fair. Trey, did you have any standout parts?
I stole your part.
No, I mean that is the first note that I wrote down was because I think that the intro had, you know what I mean, like from the very beginning of the movie, the music was great throughout.
Mhm.
But I think my favorite part was, and I've said it before, when Michelle talked to Romy and was like, you know, our life is fine. Like there's that whole moment I thought was just
It's
it's
a
a
great
good
moment.
moment.
It's like it's everything Michelle's been working towards. Like that was her character evolved. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like when characters evolve.
I gotta say, and I think this every time, I really, really loved Lisa's character, which is kind of out of left field. But
Which one's Lisa again?
Lisa
Michelle.
was No,
Oh.
no, the character Lisa.
Oh,
Oh.
which
The-
one was Lisa?
that she was
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. The
was
fashion
she the
the
designer.
fashion editor.
Yeah.
Was she Elaine Hendricks?
Yes.
Yes.
The
Okay,
only
'cause I
time
made a
Elaine
point.
Hendricks is not a purely villainous character.
Yes.
And like she had a redemption. She had a
Yeah.
whole redemption arc. They hint at it in the flashback
Yep.
that she's not going to be completely evil.
Yep.
And
Yep.
she decides to defend them at the end. I love everything about that character.
Yep.
It's a unique character to have in the scenario instead of having Romy and Michelle have to fight everybody. They decide to give her multiple female allies, both in Lisa and in Heather.
Mhm.
It was good. I like it.
Yeah.
And good on Elaine Hendricks for
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
I know.
Is she? I'm IMDbing Elaine right now. Oh, she was in The Parent Trap.
Yeah,
She
she's
was the evil stepmom.
stepmother in Parent Trap.
Oh.
All right. So how do we think this held up watching it as an adult?
I mean, it's a great nostalgia movie.
Mm-hmm. It's a snapshot of mid 90s.
Yes, because
man.
it definitely doesn't hold up because I mean, I think I had a 5, 10, 15, 20 year reunions or whatever for high school. I went to one, I think, but nobody needs to do that anymore because of Facebook.
I was going to ask if I feel like this is a very antiquated social convention that you just don't have anymore.
No. Which I understand why they happen.
Are you
They
saying
had
people
them.
don't? You saying people don't go to reunions?
They don't go to like official reunions that the entire class goes to.
Yeah.
Like I think I was invited to a 10-year reunion, but it was like at the Muse. So,
Right. Right.
it was like at a bar. It wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't.
A
I
big
did
affair
have
like
an
this.
official one.
I had the
And-
10-year and it was at a bar in Boston.
We rented a hall. There was a DJ, and first off, I felt like it should have just been at our high school's gym. I felt like that would have been more nostalgic and
Right.
fun, and kind of decorated it like prom.
That's what you expect from a
or whatever.
reunion.
Yeah, that's what you expected a reunion. You know what I mean? I sat at a table with my friends who I've kept in touch with because we had all called each other to double check we were going. And there were a couple people that I saw, but it wasn't like anybody I cared to keep in touch with.
If you want to reconnect, you just go on Facebook and
just do.
reconnect. You don't have to go through this process.
Yeah. But so the worst part of my high school reunion was there was a DJ and I was like, okay, great. I'm going to go and request like an NSYNC song because that was quintessential high school. You know what I mean? And I'm like, can you play Bye, Bye, Bye? And the DJ was like, I don't have that.
Oh
And
my
like,
God.
What do you
This
mean?
happened
And he's
at
like,
a
I don't.
wedding.
And I'm like, so I was like, okay, do you have Hit Me Baby One More Time?
Right.
Genie in a Bottle? Like I know these
Any
are old songs.
millennial
but
song
we are at a high school reunion.
Right.
Why don't you play music that we were listening to when we were in high school?
Yeah.
Duh.
He didn't have any music.
Good
It was
Lord.
all modern music, which is fine, but you got to
But
sprinkle
read the
in
room,
the
dude.
classics.
Right.
Yeah, read the room.
Like,
Anyway, point being is it's not a necessary function anymore. And I think that it's unfair that that's the reason why the movie doesn't hold up. It's just, it's something that doesn't happen nowadays. I think generally speaking, though, I think the movie does hold up because it shows something like that that we don't have.
Yeah. Well, that's
as
what I
common
mean. It's
these
fallen
days.
into this like vintagey, not necessarily a cult classic, but almost kind of in a way like a 90s vintage classic.
Right. She had a flip phone, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
And was
She's like, if
so
anyone needs to make a
excited.
call, like I have a phone.
And then at one point, Romy tried to audition for Singled Out.
Yep.
That
What was that?
I was
again?
like that she was applying for Tinder or what, you know.
But do you remember Singled Out? I loved that show.
I forgot all about that completely. Wow.
I like time capsule movies.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what
Time
I'll word.
capsule. Time
Yeah.
capsule.
And admittedly, Wayne's World is a great example of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved Wayne's World, by the way. I watched that like hundreds of times.
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World. Party time. Excellent. Woo, 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 woo.
Oh man. So do we think that Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion affected our generation?
I went with no on that, unless you consider extended slumber parties.
I actually, I mean, I don't want to say no. I feel like most girls growing up at some point watched this movie. But yeah,
Except for me.
it didn't become part of our,
I want to
being.
say that like I'm the oldest and it came out in 97. I was 12. That was 7th grade.
Mhm.
So I wasn't even in high school to appreciate a high school reunion.
Yeah,
So I
that's true.
feel like
It's
I
more
feel
like
we're not qualified to truly answer this question because I feel like I would want to ask older
millennial.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair.
I want to throw in there Friends. This was Friends had
yeah.
already come out, so Lisa
Mhm.
Kudrow was still riding that wave a little bit. There was a bunch of people in there that were connected to Friends.
Yep.
that show is so big.
Yeah, exactly. Which Friends did affect our generation,
Oh,
good or
my
bad.
God. Yes, it did.
Definitely did. So this was kind of
Absolutely.
one of those things that like
It was
if you
riding
watched
that wave
Friends,
a little bit.
it was riding that wave.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people who watch Friends definitely watch this movie at least once because. Because speaking of our generation, in retrospect, Mira Sorvino was one of the first actresses to speak out against Weinstein.
Yeah, because
Oh.
I was reading how
I didn't
she
realize
basically
that.
was blacklisted by Weinstein.
Yes, she was,
and that's why she doesn't have the career that you would expect
Exactly.
her to have.
And she is having a bit of a revival after that. But yeah, because I remember her. I remember liking her. I feel like she's very unique. Her
Yes.
deep voice, her look,
Yep.
her, all good things that should have so helped her because she just stood out from everyone else in Hollywood.
Yep.
And she was blacklisted.
Yeah.
Hopefully
she makes kind of a comeback. I don't know.
She is.
Yeah.
She's got a bunch of stuff coming out. She was in American Crime Story, bunch of stuff. Okay, random. This was a Disney movie.
It was, yeah. I mean, it's a Disney movie only because Disney owns everything. So it was a Touchstone movie. And I don't think a lot of people realize that Touchstone is a subsidiary of Disney.
That is true because, at the end of the movie, they said it was a Disney, like it said Disney, didn't say Touchstone. Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. So what other notes does everybody have?
We didn't mention Alan Cumming.
Oh, Alan Cummings. I love him.
He was cute in this.
Apparently he owns a bar in New York City where they have a weekly Romy and Michelle like tea or whatever. That's precious.
And they do things like they play the music from the soundtrack.
I love it.
And they have a scarf folding section.
Right? Right?
Where is this?
Let's fold scarves in New York City.
We should go.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be so fun? Well, you guys just went to New York.
We did just go to New York.
You didn't go to the place?
I didn't know about it until today.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fold scarves has got to be one of my favorite quotes out of this movie. Don't know why.
Because it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I would also like to do a call out since you just gave a shout out to Alan Cummings. I want to shout out Jeannie Garofalo.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love her.
She is if Lisa Kudrow is the best at playing the lovable ditz, Jeannie Garofalo is the best at playing
the loner.
The outspoken loner.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, like, I remember growing up and really not liking her because she was so brazen and so like harsh. But as an adult,
she was
the first and one of the only actual laugh out loud moments for me when she's in the line at the Jaguar place and she keeps talking to the lady behind her. I laughed out loud at that. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So I mean, kudos.
Yeah, that was the first one of the first scenes. I'd rather put the cigarette out in my right eye. The quotes that come from her are just like everything she says is quotable.
Oh, I found it interesting. If we're going to take like I don't want to say philosophical standpoint, but if we're going to read into this movie a little bit,
let's do it.
It poo while on the one hand the theme is accepting, enjoying life for what it is, not having expectations based on other people's opinions, et cetera, it poo-poos the idea of motherhood while not poo-pooing the idea of a career woman.
Yes.
And I feel like that was
very rare
for
even today.
Yeah. Like a career, like, of course, the positives of career women is known, but going that extra mile of poo-pooing motherhood and this, you're putting on this farce and you're not actually happy and you don't, it was interesting.
Yep.
I actually noticed that that whole scene where she tells off the girls who are, we're pregnant, half-wit or whatever.
Yeah.
And that whole scene, I remember thinking, I kind of was like on the fence. I was like straddling the fence of like both sides of that.
Well, I think that's true of everyone, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in movies and stuff, we're usually portrayed as either, the career woman, but she's like at the top of her field and she's making a ton of money and all this.
Yeah.
Or you're the stay-at-home mom with 5 kids. And the truth of the matter is there's this, balance and a spectrum. You know what I mean? Like, it's, and it's okay to want both, have both, to have neither. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
oh yeah, women are people too.
What?
Yeah, no way.
I guess it wasn't so much that they're casting a negative light on motherhood. They're casting a negative light on the domestic goddess trope.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
That's a good way of saying it.
All right. What other notes do we have? Oh, I also want to do a shout out to a specific scene that I feel like has kind of gone down in history, which is the walking on the treadmill in high heels.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't know what that has stuck with me for decades.
I'm going to expand on that because when they did that whole, like they showed them going to the gym a couple of times. And I think it's funny how workouts have kind of stayed the same but different. Like they were doing like jazzercise or whatever it was, and it's like, well, now we do Zumba, which is basically the same thing. And they were doing like kickboxing, which or I don't know if that's what they were calling it, but that's very much a thing now. And
then they were doing an elliptical class and
that is very, very much in the whole like up and down, like it's the same. It's the machines have gotten smarter or whatever, but it's the same.
Yeah. A workout's a workout.
Yeah, I know. You guys know how much I like that scene. I'm like, I should go work out.
In your high heels, in your platform high heels.
Yeah.
I have a strange note here that I'll share.
Okay.
I've like you, Bets, I watched this once all the way through a very long time ago. And it definitely wasn't when it first came out because I think I was way too young.
Yeah.
So it was later, probably when it was on TV. But I wrote down a couple of notes of like what I remembered about the movie before I watched it like again. And I remember thinking to myself that they were too old to portray high school students. And granted, those were like flashbacks, but I just thought it was so funny that I remember thinking that when I watched this, and I was probably in high school when I watched this, but I remember watching Grease. But I remember watching Grease as a very, very young child. Yeah. And that was, I never in a million years questioned that at all.
That's funny.
And while I was watching, I was like Googling ages to make sure, like, I was like, okay, why did I have an issue with this? And I think they were 30, 29, and they were supposed to be like 27 maybe. So they were all of them were all the correct ages for who they were playing. It was just the flashbacks. And I think they did those. I thought it was great that they still used them compared to using teenagers.
I was going to say, I'm actually okay with it. Like, I'm aware that,
right. Oh,
as an audience member, I'm aware of what's happening. And so I was willing to accept it.
I just remember having that thought with, oh God, they're old. Why are they being in high school or whatever? And I was like, girl, you don't even
know what old is. We're on the other side of that age.
We're on the other
now.
side of that. Yes.
I think that was all my notes, guys.
No, we touched on everything.
Yeah. I mean,
the two takeaways, the two memorable things that I really, really remembered was the back brace and the Post-its.
Back brace and Post-its.
Yeah, the back brace. Oh my God.
I actually completely forgot about the back brace. I'm going to be honest with you.
The magnets.
The things that stuck with me. Ha 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 ha. Pun.
Is that a magnet pun?
It was a magnet pun.
That's easier.
The things that stuck with me from when I watched it as a kid, because you're right, I have not watched this in many, many, many years, is Lisa's comeback when she says, overall, not bad. That moment of revenge, I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Like when she's like the fashion editor, when she's like critiquing their clothes. I remember that scene perfectly. And time after time.
Yeah, time after time, I feel like is I've heard about this movie from that song. Like that song was on the radio and someone I was with in the car was like, oh, Romy and Michelle. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But like now, a decade later, I'm like, oh.
Has everyone said their piece, said what they wanted to say?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we all know we've been watching Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. What else have we watched past couple of weeks?
So I know this isn't going to be released for a while.
I know what you're going to say, and I watched it too. Go ahead.
I went to see Dune.
I saw Dune too.
Yeah.
Did you go see Dune together?
No.
So I had never seen the original.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in there completely blank slate. All I knew was that there was sand and worms. That's literally
which
all
is
I knew.
Also Tremors, which is also Beetlejuice. These are all very different movies.
Yep. So because it was a very different movie than what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue that it was a little bit slow because I had the expectation of it being an action adventure. Like that's, I went in for that. But it wasn't that.
Yeah.
But I really liked it.
Good. Would you, so I am familiar with the story. I watched the original in the 80s. I watched the made for TV miniseries, multiples from Sci-Fi. And I tried to read the book as a kid. I was too young to read it. And as an adult, I'm like, I have no interest in trying that.
It's long. And I think there's like 20 books.
But I knew the concept. I knew what I was going in. I really appreciated that they made it accessible because I knew how complex the story is.
Yeah.
And the way I was describing it, because it's a 2.5-hour movie, the way I was describing it was in my head to myself. I wasn't talking to anybody else about it. Was you got through the first half and was rewarded with the second half. And because almost on the dot, the first into the second, the pace completely changed.
Why is that?
Because you had to get all that exposition.
Yep.
You had to
very
learn about
much
the politics and
felt
everything.
like a setup movie though. Cause even though that there was a middle and there was a difference between the first half and second half, it was still like I was like, not that I was timing it, but I'm like, you're not getting to the climax yet.
You're not even at the beginning of the war.
Right.
Right. We're not even at the war yet.
Right. Like the two main characters haven't even met yet. Yeah. And we're 2 hours in. Yeah. And then I remembered at the very beginning, it said part 1.
Yeah. And I know this is a series. I know the complexity of the story. I am not surprised at all that it's not and of course, Hollywood, you're not going to do standalone movies anymore. I'm sorry. Of this size, this blockbuster level, it's not going to be a standalone.
That's true.
But I guess people are surprised that it's not a standalone. And I'm like,
I was a little bit, and because I saw it said part 2, I was like, oh, okay, we're going to time jump a little. So we're going to set this whole thing up and then we're going to time jump into the war. So I was waiting for that black screen and then for it to say like part 2 and it didn't. And I was like, okay. The whole thing is part 1.
But
I enjoyed it enough where I am looking forward to a part 2.
Good.
And as much as I don't want to say I don't like Timothée Chalamet. as much as I hate him because he's the hipster, like I'm a hipster and it's the it thing, right? He's the it thing right now. So I'm like, no, I don't like him. He did a great job.
He nailed it. He nailed it. And it's because I watched it with my dad, and within the first 10-15 minutes, my dad was like, production quality is great. I don't like this guy. I don't like Timothée Chalamet. And I was like, honestly, you're not supposed to like Paul. Right. He's an unlikable character, even though he's our protagonist. He's kind of and honestly, Timothy is like, this version of Paul is a relatively likable character in comparison to what he like in the books.
Okay.
He's so I honestly, he's doing his job. I think he did a really good job, and he has a gray head of hair.
Yeah. I also think that Oscar Isaacs, the father-son relationship in this
great job
was amazing. And the mother-son relationship was amazing. And and Duncan stole the show, so as he always does in everything he does. I think it was solid. It wasn't the best thing ever, and I think it's weirdly timed. Like it's a cis white male savior story, which I am not against, but it's just an interesting choice to go all in on type thing. I don't know, but it is, because I feel like it was kind of a cult classic, and to go all in on something so
niche.
But I think they knew that if they did it, they had to have an all-star cast, which they did.
Yes.
And they had to have high budget and good CGI. I'm a big CGI critic because I like practical effects.
And
it
worked. They did a really good job.
Yep.
Serena, what have you been watching?
You, season 3 of You on Netflix. It's all the rage. Everyone's watching it. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but holy moly, what a season. It started out slow, and then boy, did it pick up.
I've heard a lot of things about it, and I've heard a lot of like good things about it, but it is just not my cup of tea.
You know what? I didn't think it would be my cup of tea. And then I watched episode 1, season 1, like back when it came out, and I didn't sleep for days. I just binged it. Same thing happened with season 2. I was like done in like a few days. Yeah, it was good. I really liked it. So that I just wrapped that up this weekend, season 3. I highly recommend it.
All right, are we ready? Are we ready to find out what we're gonna watch next time?
Yes, please.
It's such an anticlimactic. I just click a button, but
that's why I made the noise.
Oh
no! This might be
Wayne's
a reroll.
World? Wayne's World?
Any guesses based on my reaction?
Wedding Singer?
Twilight.
Oh, all right. I can mess with that.
Yeah, I have not watched this in many years.
Wait, I'm confused. How is that even on our list? What year did it come out?
Twilight is 2008.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So it's a young millennial movie.
Yeah,
but that's
I'm qualified.
That's true. That's, you know what? I like this. This because I feel like Romy and Michelle was an old millennial, and here is a new millennial. Because this movie and book, we were a little too old for it.
And yet I knew many older women reading and watching it too.
Oh yeah. Well, okay, we'll get into it then, but it's okay.
Thanks for joining us. If you like what you hear, you can find more great episodes over on our website, www.millennialsofthemoviehouse.com, or wherever you find your podcasts. Curious about updates, extras from our episodes, or want to add your 2 cents about a reviewed movie? We're also on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle for both is @themoviemillies. Check us out and make sure to follow us. So until next time,
we're millennials,
and we'll see you at the movie house.